I want to thank Sean Hannity. Sean's like a brother to me. When Sean punches through something, he really punches through it. He understands exactly how to make a difference, and he's been doing that this entire campaign, much of it behind the scenes, giving me advice on late night conversations. Again, the kinds of things that true friends do for each other. There's so many others I can thank. I'm just going to toss out.
There's so many people that Dr. Oz can thank. He just hasn't won yet, but I'm sure you can still thank your folks. The one thing that sticks out there, his number one thank is Sean Hannity. I'm trying to figure out how many people Sean Hannity unofficially advises, stays up late night on the phone with Dr. Oz to give him advice. Well, we'll see how close it gets to working, because his close was a little too close. His race was a little bit too close to call last night with Dave McCormick. Let's look at some of those numbers there, because they're both virtually tied at 31%. I believe when it broke down even further, it was like 32 to 31 or 31.8 to 31.5. It's within 1 percentage point, at least from what I last saw. And so we're gonna have to continue to have this count going. It's gonna last a few more days, but the thanks still keep getting spread around. Dr. Oz did talk more about with Sean Hannity's influence, about what type of person he would be if he does pull this out and then also wins in the general election to become the next senator in Pennsylvania. Watch more.
And you never want to let your people down. So when you go to bed at night, put your head on that soft pillow, you know Oz will be doing exactly what you want him to do if you were there next to him.
You know, what? So you wanna make sure when you lay your head down, you wanna imagine that Dr. Oz is right next to you, whispering in your ear, just go to sleep, just go to sleep. Why is that an appealing thing that maybe people wanna have to vote for a guy to come into office? Sit down with your head next to your pillow. Now, I think part about this is, Adrian, is that he's been having to deal with this uphill battle with making sure that everyone believes that he's a true conservative Republican, because he has a background of, everyone knows who he was on television. He has many things he said when it comes to people's rights, specifically pro-choice rights. But also just in general, they feel like he's a wolf in sheep clothing. He's gonna come in and just disrupt everything and start voting with Democrats. That's the first fear. First, I wonder what you think about his potential candidacy and what he might do if he gets into office.
I think he has that high level of likability that people generally associate with celebrities who have been able to kind of do this parlay into politics. Also, it's clear that he's a charlatan, that he will say what's necessary to get into the position. And we're seeing a lot of that from the Republican Party. We even saw it from Donald Trump, saying he was a Democrat at one point in time and then he's Republican. And then he said if he ever run on the ticket, he'd go for the GOP because he knew that the followers were dumb. And we've seen a number of people out there doing that exact same thing, leveraging these fear-mongering sentiments, whether it's racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, using all of these isms to leverage the GOP and to get their place in terms of politics. And so this is something that we see from Dr. Oz as well.
Well, as you point out there, you talk about the potential popularity because of his show. Obviously, that's the main name recognition part, which is why, in case you guys don't remember, Donald Trump did endorse Dr. Oz and openly, explicitly at a rally said, he's on TV. That means he's popular. That's why I'm endorsing him. Like, that's the reason behind it, because he was on television. Again, does that make sense? Which, I mean, I guess I'm not gonna call it to the credit, but at least when it comes to being different than normal, many Republicans spoke out against that endorsement because they just don't like the way that looked. But there was one aspect that made people look a little sideways again, as just before election night, Dr. Oz was talking about the main thing that every Republican has to make sure they say the right way, which is that the 2020 election was stolen. He was asked about this, but he didn't have the best answer, I guess. Watch.
But what about Trump in this whole thing with election integrity? Because regarding the 2020 election, you have said before, we cannot move on. So do you believe that the 2020 election was rigged or stolen? Those are the words he uses. I'm curious. I'm trying to understand what we cannot move on means, just so I understand.
Not move on means there's so many different things that happen as you really examine it as a physician. I like to get into the details. I've talked to individuals who say their votes weren't counted, who went to the polls and claimed that someone had already voted with their absentee ballot. There's so many questions, and not just about the absentee ballots, but the fact we don't have voter ID here, that opened up the whole system to mischievousness.
The reason I ask you is because it seems like the delineation point a lot of times is those words rigged and stolen that Donald Trump likes to use. Some people won't use them. I haven't heard you use them today. So you're cautious on those words, or you want to be careful?
I want to be careful. Republicans are about fixing things. I know for sure we've got to deal with 2020. This is about knowing exactly what the diagnosis is so we can give it the right treatment.
Oh, nice turn of words there, Dr. Oz. The diagnosis, I'm a doctor. We have to diagnose the problem correctly, and we have to be careful. Again, being careful and not using the fiery, inflammatory words that Donald Trump likes to use when it comes to the 2020 election just isn't the way to go. So I do think also there was an attorney that one of Trump's attorneys, the one of the few he has left, that was a little shocked and taken aback by this. Do you think this is gonna hurt him? Maybe there's gonna be more pushback once the general comes. Again, he hasn't won yet, but he's very close. He's still trailing a bit.
Yeah, you know what? It really seems that Donald Trump is so incredibly blinded by ratings. It's a popularity contest. And so he's willing to elevate anyone who has those things. And Dr. Oz has those things. But also Dr. Oz was on a TV show. He could say whatever he wanted. And oftentimes he did, whether it was backed by medical research or not. And so again, he's just acting really. And Donald Trump is doing the exact same thing. And so it's so incredibly disturbing because we don't know where Dr. Oz stands. And the fact that he is advancing is so incredibly just scary because it's like, what does this individual stand for other than saying what's necessary to get to the next level?
And we mentioned last night, what else is there for Dr. Oz to do? We're talking about maybe more money, why? And more power to do what with? Influence, I don't know, it's this weird addiction that people have. Bro, you're successful, move on. But there's something else that he appears to find within the Republican Party that he thinks he can exploit to further enrich himself, fulfill himself. Who knows? We'll figure it out. But honestly, I'm not sure who I'd even want to see win this race at the end of the day, because between, at least on this Republican primary side, because who knows? McCormick is this big normal MAGA guy, and then Dr. Oz is the new trying to be a MAGA guy. We'll figure it all out.